Are the extracurricular and athletic opportunities in your traditional public school among the most powerful and underestimated advantages you offer students and families every single day? Well, I want you to reflect on that question for a moment. Because if you are a K-12 administrator or central office leader, you already know that the competition for student enrollment is real. You know the narrative that circulates in some communities, that private schools are more rigorous, that charter schools are more innovative, that homeschooling offers more flexibility. And yet, time and again, when families who left come back, the reason they return often has nothing to do with curriculum. It has everything to do with belonging. That is exactly what extracurricular activities provide. And no institution on earth offers these opportunities more fairly, more accessibly, or more powerfully than your traditional public school. So let's talk about what happens when we, as educators in traditional public schools, don't get this right. Here's the honest truth about where many of us stumble. We spend enormous energy defending our academic programs, test scores, AP offerings, and intervention data, while systematically under-communicating the extraordinary human development that occurs the moment the final bell rings. We treat extracurriculars as optional, not required. It is the first line item to be cut when the budget gets tight. And when we do that, we're not just cutting a club or a sport. We're cutting the experiences that would have kept a struggling ninth grader connected enough to show up on Monday. We are eliminating the rehearsal room where a shy, academically disengaged student discovers for the first time that she has a voice, literally and figuratively. We are dismantling the very infrastructure of belonging that research tells us is one of the strongest predictors of student success. The thinking that treats extracurriculars as a luxury is not just misaligned with the evidence. It is a fundamental misunderstanding of what education is for. So let me share with you how I see this. Years ago, I worked closely with the school leadership team in a district facing significant budget pressure. Like so many others, they had made difficult cuts. The athletic program had been reduced, the drama department had been scaled back, and several clubs had gone dormant. On paper, the school still looked functional. Academically, the numbers were holding. But something was missing. I remember walking the halls during lunch and noticing how fragmented the student body felt. There were clusters of kids who barely acknowledged one another. The energy in the building was flat in a way that had nothing to do with the weather. When I met with a group of students to ask what they thought was different, one young man looked up at me and said something I have never forgotten. He said, "There's nothing here that feels like mine anymore." That sentence stopped me cold, because that is the language of disconnection. And disconnected students do not thrive academically, socially, or emotionally, no matter how strong the curriculum is. When that same school decided to restore its extracurricular programming the following year, not with fanfare, but with intention and community support, the change was visible within a single semester. Attendance improved, office referrals declined, teachers reported that students were more engaged in class. And when I asked the same young man how things were going, he smiled and said, "I joined the robotics team. We're going to regionals." Belonging changes everything. So as you think about that, ask yourself the question, what the research tells us and what we must do with it. Well, the data on this is not ambiguous. Students who participate in extracurricular activities demonstrate higher academic achievement, stronger attendance, and greater social emotional well-being than those who do not. The National Federation of State High School Associations has consistently documented that student athletes maintain higher grade point averages and graduation rates than their non-participating peers. And the Search Institute's decades of research on developmental assets identifies participation in structured out-of-school activities as one of the most critical protective factors in adolescent development. But data alone does not win the argument at a school board meeting, in a parent conversation, or in a community forum. Stories do, which is why it is so important that you, as leaders, learn to connect the evidence to the experience. To say, here is what the research shows, and here is what we saw happen in room 214 when Marcus picked up a trombone for the first time. The right answer is not to defend extracurriculars with budget justifications. The right answer is to lead with the truth. These programs are not extras. They are essential to the full development of every child in your care. So, what public schools offer that no other system can match? Well, traditional public schools are the only educational institutions in America that are designed by law, by mission, and by community commitment to serve every child, regardless of zip code, income, ability, or background. And that universality extends to extracurriculars. You see, when a child is in a public school and decides that she wants to run cross country, she does not need a private club membership. When a student discovers a passion for journalism, he does not need to be enrolled in a selective admissions program to write for the school newspaper. When a first-generation student finds her confidence on a debate stage, that stage was built and maintained by the community that believes every child deserves that chance. Sports, theater, debate, band, student council, robotics, these are not amenities. They are the architecture of a life. They teach young people how to collaborate under pressure, handle failure with grace, and commit to something larger than themselves. As the late Dr. James Comer, founder of the School Development Program at Yale University, wrote, "No significant learning can occur without a significant relationship." Extracurricular activities are one of the most reliable ways our schools build those relationships. And in a public school, those relationships are built across socioeconomic status, racial, and ability lines. That is something no private school, no charter network, and no homeschool co-op can replicate at scale. So what is our role as leaders in protecting these opportunities? Well, as administrators, you are the stewards of these programs. The decisions you make about scheduling, funding, staffing, and communication send a message, whether you intend them to or not, about what your school community values. When you protect extracurriculars in the budget, you are saying, we believe in the whole child. When you celebrate the robotics team in the same breath as the honor roll, you are saying excellence takes many forms here. When you recruit a skilled coach or sponsor a new club that reflects your student body's interests, you are saying this school is a place where you can find your people. And when you communicate all of this clearly and consistently to families and community members, weighing their enrollment decisions, you're not just marketing a program. You are making the case that public education at its best is about belonging, growth, and the kind of community that shapes a person for life. So here is what I want to challenge you to do. This week, walk your school or your district's office with fresh eyes. Ask yourself, where do students get to discover who they are beyond a test score? Where do they get to belong? Where do they get to lead? Then ask, how well are we telling that story? Now, if the answer makes you a little uncomfortable, that is a gift. Because the leaders who are willing to struggle with that discomfort are the ones who will do something about it. And the students in your care, especially the ones who have not yet found their thing, who are one season or one audition or one meeting away from discovering where they belong, are counting on you to get this right. The classroom matters deeply, and the world your students will inherit will be shaped just as powerfully by everything that happens when the bell rings.